Hi everyone, Paul here. Just wanted to drop in before the start of this podcast to let you know that we will be back very soon with the next book in the 87th Precinct sequence on the podcast, and that is See Them Die. And my guest on this podcast is Lorraine Ramage, who you can find on Twitter at lolmidge, LOLMIDGE, and Merrymaker Films. So pop on there and have a look at her filmmaking work as well. Enjoy the podcast. It's very Bollywood. Hark, it's an 87th Precinct podcast side pod bonus episode. This was not planned in the original scheme of things, but because we looked at the film High and Low recently, the Kurosawa film from 1963, based on the Ed McBain 87th Precinct book King's Ransom from 1959, well, that road carries on a little bit because in the 70s we find a film in India called Inkaar. And we're going to talk about that tonight. And the we that we're talking about is me, Paul, your usual host, me, and a competition winner who's joining me in my living room, or should I say our living room. This is Lorraine, who is here. Say hello, Lolo.
Hello, Lolo.
Okay. Justify yourself, Lorraine. Why have I asked you to do this side pod bonus episode with me?
I, Lorraine, am well known within this household as being a fan of popular Indian cinema, also known as Bollywood, of which Inkaar is one of.
Okay. Try just putting some of those words together without the gaps.
Inkaar's a Bollywood film and I like Bollywood films.
Yes. Thank you. Is there a difference, though, in film? Is every Indian film Bollywood?
No.
What's the distinction?
I think in Bollywood there are elements of song and dance and definitely love stories that you don't always see in other Indian cinema films. Or if there are love stories, it's certainly not song and dance.
Can you give me an example then of a perhaps an Indian film that is not Bollywood that people might know?
Well, Dangal is probably Bollywood, but it doesn't have songs and dancing. That's the film that I'm desperate for you to watch about a man bringing up his two daughters to become wrestlers.
I'm sure it's very good.
Yeah.
Any that people... Is there any Bollywood or Indian cinema films you think are the ones that anyone would know outside of, the people that watch those films regularly?
Probably, maybe not. DDLJ maybe. So Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, which was a massive, and still is, a massive mid-90s Indian Bollywood film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it, that the Bollywood film industry is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, unless you go to watch Bollywood films, or it's sort of part of what you've grown up with, people often don't know about it outside of India. Or certainly don't know about how big it is, how massive the stars of it are, and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely huge, yeah. It's massive, and I suppose you can. The term Bollywood's a bit problematic to some because it's kind of seen as dismissive, but it's just absolutely massive, yeah, and it's amazing, and you don't get to see them often here in the UK.
Well, let's have a quick recap on basically how we've got to Inkaar in 1977, so end of the 70s. King's Ransom was the story by Ed McBain from 1959 about the shoe magnate Douglas King being blackmailed by some people who think they've kidnapped his son. Turns out they've kidnapped his chauffeur's son, and it becomes a bit of a morality tale as much as a police procedural story about will he pay the money when it's still demanded of him even though it's not his son, and how does that play out in the relationships he has. And in the book itself we then get into the police procedural, how do we catch the kidnappers. In the film High and Low, which you watched with us before we did the podcast with Steph, our guest, last time.
Can I just say I missed the smoke scene?
Yes.
Because I was polite.
We would have paused it for you, but you were too polite, and then you missed that.
Oh no, let
startling
it run. It's fine. I'll be like 30 seconds.
silly sausage. But you enjoyed High and Low, didn't you?
Loved it. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Astonishing film.
Yeah.
That takes the morality tale part of it and makes that the main thing, although it doesn't scrimp on procedure, and that's got quite a lot of cops in rooms being sweaty and the fans are on them and they're all gathered in there in the heat trying to work it out. Bollywood, not famed for its gritty police sequences particularly. So we get to 1977. High and Low's obviously made an impact, and Raj N. Sippy is the director. I don't know if he was the guy who instigated this, or it would have been producers or what. Decides to remake it as Inkaar. I don't know what Inkaar means necessarily.
Inkaar means refuse.
Refuse?
Or does it mean refuse?
Well, no.
Oh, I don't know. One ran the word through an online translator, and that it came up as refuse or refuse.
I suspect it's refuse, as in to
So do I.
refuse to
Yeah,
pay
I know,
the
it's
ransom.
a great title, isn't it? It's brilliant.
It is a great title, and if anyone wants to look this up and some of the imagery, the DVD case we might come back to because it's a bit strange how it's put together, but there's a logo for Inkaar, Inkaar. Yeah. It's a really good logo, and I'm not sure if it's correct on this case here, but yeah, it's part of it I think is missing on this, because I think on the top of it there's normally a little train running across the top of the logo.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
And it's got the little bag that's used to throw the money out in.
That's so cool.
I'll put a link to that on the Twitter feed, etc. Right, then Lorraine, first and foremost, basic reaction to Inkaar. Did you enjoy it as a Bollywood film fan?
Yes.
Okay. How much in comparison to some of the other ones you've seen?
Other Bollywood films generally?
Yeah.
I thought I really, really enjoyed it. I've seen quite a few sort of action films, Bollywood action films, and to me it stands up with those, the sort of bombast and the ridiculous action of it. And some of the, we'll probably talk about later, some of the action scenes are incredible, you know.
Yeah, so it is definitely an action movie. So even though there's a lot of action in High and Low, Inkaar goes beyond that and reduces the morality side of it as well. Although obviously we've got a big thing here with the Japanese film. There's a lot about honour and position. Here there's more about family honour, isn't there, and family position and a business position about how you're viewed in your community. Possibly, I don't know. Certainly within the family group, a big family group, which is I assume, and I think from what I've seen of Bollywood films, is part of it.
Yeah,
you normally see. It's normally centred around family groups.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick rundown of some of the main characters, and then you can tell me about some of these actors, because I don't know.
Thanks.
So
I don't know much about
Well,
him.
our Steve Carella character, he's the only real policeman that's got any personality in this. There is a couple of others, but Steve Carella character is known as Inspector Gill in this film, and he's played by Vinod Khanna.
Yeah.
Douglas King becomes Haridas Chowdhury by Sriram Lagu.
Yeah.
The kidnapper, Sai Barnard in the book, and I can't remember the name of the character.
Oh, it's Raj Singh in the film.
He's the name in this is Raj Singh.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the High and Low one as well.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Sai Barnard in the book, he's Raj Singh. He's played by Amjad Khan. And Diane King from the book is known as Sonu Chowdhury in this, and she's played by Lily Chakravarti. And there's quite a few other names in there, I think, which are fairly well known, including the fantastically named Helen.
Yeah.
Just Helen. I assume it's an allusion to Helen of Troy and...
No, her name was Helen Richardson,
just
I
Helen?
think. Yeah.
So
Helen Richardson.
How can we make you... Yeah.
She was Burmese English.
Which is the Richardson part.
Yeah.
And the Helen part.
And that was it. And
But she made her career in Indian film.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. And there's a character who's known as Drunk Fishing, and he's in a bar as well, and he was played by Keshto Mukherjee, and I'm sure we'll mention him as well, because he's got a face that...
It's a very famous name in film, the Mukherjee family. I don't know if he's part of that family at all, but the Mukherjees are huge.
So let's get into it then.
Yeah.
Opening sequence. We need to establish that Inspector Gill is a hard cop. Oh, this is amazing. What happens?
I can't remember because I think I'm conflating High and Low now. Is it the restaurant scene?
Well, no. Before that, basically, we have an opening sequence. It's like police squad.
Oh, he's chasing somebody,
it's like
isn't he?
Police squad first, isn't it?
Oh, it is
we
because
can't go through the streets with all the titles.
I've completely forgot because it's like it feels like a couple of weeks since we've watched this.
Well,
but there's
will do,
a
'cause
camera set on top of a police car, like just behind the lights. And you see the lights, don't you? And it's travelling. Is that right?
Well, you might be thinking of Police Squad.
Oh, maybe I am now.
But it is
and it's
basically,
night.
it's a police car travelling through a city at night. So unlike High and Low, which opens in the King residence, or Gondo Kingo, or whatever way around it is, this has a title sequence with the police squad business.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't do anything mad like fly through space or drive through a building or anything.
And I think it's setting its stall there, isn't it? It's saying, well, this is a cop show, guys. This is a cop
And the
film.
car pulls up and the coppers run out
that's right.
to chase some drug dealers.
Yeah.
But so excited are they to get these drug dealers, no one's put the handbrake
It's
on.
brilliant.
This car
It just
keeps
rolls.
rolling on.
It's brilliant.
And I assumed that it was just like, well, we can't retake it, do it. It was
Quite right. Quite right too. That's what I'd do. And move on. We've done it. It's fine.
Yeah. But then we see Inspector Gill being called away to a restaurant where someone's had a heart attack. And that's a fantastic sequence in there, because we're more establishing that he's not a very sympathetic character, unlike Steve Carella, who is.
Yeah.
And
Well, maybe it's not sympathetic, but I think he sees through the ruse, doesn't he? That's what I took from it.
Lying on the floor having a heart attack, in air quotes.
Yeah.
And he comes in and basically just kicks him and tells him to get out because he's a scammer.
Yeah. Damn scammer.
So we've met that guy, and then we can get into meeting.
And then we pretty much go to the Chowdhuries, don't we?
We do, and we basically get into the bit that's as near to High and Low and King's Ransom as it's going to be.
Yeah.
I read someone reviewing this Inkaar film and saying, oh, it's a shot-for-shot remake of High and Low. No. It's not even close to a shot-for-shot remake.
No, that's
so
ridiculous.
we're going to find that person
and tell them off.
She'll tick them off considerably. We meet Haridas Chowdhury, and he, as in the book and in the other film, is having its discussion with the board of the National Shoe Company. I was really pleased because we have the tearing the shoe apart thing to prove that it's low quality.
You really enjoyed
That's
that,
essential to the story, to prove that he
rubbish
actually
shoes.
cares about the product, even if he is a rich man, trying to buy up the company. We don't get masses of stuff about him trying to take over the company. We don't get all the intrigue and interplay.
No, I think they've stripped that storyline down just to the bare bones of.
But we do get that he's borrowed the money from the company in order to buy the shares he needs to.
They didn't do that in the book or the other film, did they?
No. He was putting up his house.
Yeah.
Whereas the way he loses his house in this one is by being found out for borrowing the money to do this, that, and the other.
There are Bollywood films also do sort of businesses and family businesses really well as well. So that kind of makes sense.
But he gets a phone call very early on, and it suddenly gets really dramatic, and you're thinking, what, they've kidnapped him already? And Haridas Chowdhury does his catchphrase, which is, "Oh my God!" which he does 3 or 4 times in the film.
It's great, isn't it?
That's something that's interesting about Indian film. This is in Hindi.
Yes.
So that's the main language spoken throughout. But like many bits of the Bollywood films I've seen, when you've been watching them, lots of phrases are in complete, total English.
Yeah.
So is that just the nature of the spoken language in India, or is it in
I think it probably is, to be honest. Just if you look back at the colonialisation, and is that a word?
Yeah.
I've just completely gone mad. And obviously the colonisers were English speakers, the English / British. I think it is very common for people that speak not just Hindi, but the other languages, just to slip into the English and slip back out again, and just interchange.
Because there's quite a big difference between some other languages, I think, in terms of how much of their roots are Sanskrit and things like that. Some have got more than others.
Possibly, I don't know about that.
I seem to recall that being the case. But I'm certainly no expert on it. But English obviously is common across all of
You're an expert in English.
I'm all right, apart from the fact to say and so a lot. But that was interesting. I always find that very interesting when suddenly you're thinking, I can hear this in English, and you've forgotten that you're not reading a subtitle all the time. But it's mainly in Hindi.
Yeah.
Anyway, the sequence with the phone call at the start turns out to be a red herring, because what's happened is it's his anniversary.
Of course it is.
And he has to rush home to his family home and see his wife and the children and his chauffeurs there as well.
Yes, we've still got the chauffeur.
And
we've got the wife, but we've got an additional person as well.
We do. Who is it?
His sister.
It's his sister.
Yeah.
So she's new to the story. She's our route into the love story, isn't she?
She certainly is.
Because she's the former partner of Inspector Gill.
Yes.
And
maybe partners may be too strong.
Well, I'm trying to be
love
interest.
Yeah, let's go for that.
And we get a great flashback sequence,
it's great.
which tells us all about it. You sort of flash, and you have a flashback within the flashback.
Yes. Yeah.
And they run around on the beach a lot while a song plays.
Well, wouldn't you?
Well, if we had people playing a song around us when we go to the
Exactly.
beach. But talking about songs, let's deal with this. This has got songs in it.
Yeah.
Now, none of these are based on the book.
There aren't many songs, are there?
4.
That's actually not that much. But maybe it was for the 70s. I think this is the first 70s Bollywood film I've seen. So I don't know. In the 90s, there were absolutely millions in each film.
Yeah. There's no big dance
loads.
sequences in this either. I mean, there's no mystical dance sequences like you see in some of them where suddenly there's hundreds and hundreds of dancers.
Yeah, the sort of huge numbers. Yeah, but I don't know if they. I think I'd have to look at older films. That's definitely became a big thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
But whether or not it was a big thing before, I don't know.
But there are 2 or 3 really good numbers in this.
Yeah.
But it's a strange thing to have come from High and Low, which is so stark and black and white, and very little music, and what there is quite jarring.
Yeah.
To come to a Bollywood film with this essentially the same story for the most part, and then suddenly within the first 15 minutes we've had an amazing song. So, but
I still don't understand
before
that.
we talk about that actual sequence, playback singers.
Yes.
I think this is something that's not very well known.
No.
People think that Bollywood is songs and dancing thrown into films, and a lot of it is.
Yeah.
But what's a playback singer?
A playback singer is somebody that will have sung the song that you're seeing Shah Rukh Khan or Kajol, they're my favourites, miming to.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, and there are huge numbers, they're huge names. So you've got like Lata Mangeshkar, who's my favourite. Asha Bhosle is probably very well known. Mohammed Rafi. Oh my God. So they're so well respected because they're proper musicians who have done thousands of songs.
Well, Asha Bhosle is the most recorded artist in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, if you don't know who she is, it's not a name you'd think, oh yeah, I've heard. It's just...
And she's Lata Mangeshkar's sister.
Well, the songs on this one, there's 4 songs. One sung by Kishore Kumar and Asha Bhosle.
So I love Kishore Kumar.
Okay, one's sung by Usha Mangeshkar, and the other 2, which is a happy and a sad version of the same song, are by Mohammed Rafi.
Yeah.
And Oh Mungda Mungda by Usha Mangeshkar is the one that Helen does in the bar later.
Yeah.
We'll get to that
We'll
in a
get
bit.
we'll get to that.
That's sort of our catchphrase when you try to go through something, is we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, they have playback singers and they do the actual singing, and then the big name stars act it out on the screen.
But the weird thing about playback singers is, like, the Asian network might once, I don't know, a couple of times a year or whatever, go, oh, we're having a Shah Rukh Khan day, or I don't know, I can't think of any other.
Well, let's stick with Shah Rukh Khan. He is the most famous actor, isn't he?
Yeah. They'll put, it's always like the famous songs that he mimed to. But so they'll play the songs on the radio, but they were the songs he mimed to.
Credit it to him.
Kind of, yeah. It's really strange. It's really odd because they're because these songs are so linked to that character in that film, in that situation. It's fascinating.
It is interesting as well. But we get a great sequence at the engagement party, the anniversary party, where a chap turns up.
Yeah.
Does this amazing song and dance number, and the kids do this really weird high-pitched sing-along thing, which I suspect is actually just done by Asha Bhosle. And we're within 15 minutes we've had this song and dance number.
It's very loving and very kind of cheesy, isn't it?
Yes, it is very
It's all, you love each other, we're all a lovely family, blah-de-blah.
You don't know who that guy is, though.
Oh, right, so he is Rakesh Roshan.
Who is,
he's the brother of the person that did the music for this film. Rajesh Roshan. And he's the father of Hrithik Roshan, who is a very famous Bollywood actor. Because he looks exactly like him. I went, ooh!
So
I recognise that face.
Does this one sequence.
Yeah.
All the couples have a little dance. The kids are very happy, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and then that's it.
And he's off.
But that was a special appearance by him, so I think he's playing himself.
Yes, he's credited as himself.
Yeah, but isn't he the one that when the phone goes for the first time and Chowdhury says, oh my God, it was in response to him not turning up, I can't make your...
No.
Oh, am I not getting that right?
That was the second time that he was called to the phone.
Oh.
Because they keep us guessing. So they have it in the office where he's sort of thinking,
I've
got to get home for my anniversary party. The second time, he's being tricked into thinking that he's not coming. He's sent to the phone. Third time the phone goes, it's the kidnapper.
Do you think that they banked on us having seen High and Low?
Well, I don't think you would, no.
It just can't, I suppose because we just
But we can't
watched
separate
it
it out of our heads.
No, that's true.
So we can't see this film without having seen the others. That's just the nature of things. It's cumulative. Mm-hmm. But the kidnapping happens. The same thing happens as happens in the story and in the film, other film. They
don't dress up, do they? But it's essentially a small boy has been mistaken for another small boy.
Who dress up?
In High and Low, don't they dress up in like cowboy outfits or something? And do you remember?
Well, basically, they're
and it was like, oh, you're not wearing that anymore.
The two boys are the same age. They're wearing the same outfit. So they're just wearing the same outfit in this. And so they accidentally snatch the chauffeur down. And the chauffeur in this is really, really even more in the background. But he's another totally tragic figure because obviously he loses his son in this kidnapping. Yeah, he really doesn't get much of a crack of the whip in the story again because it ends up being all about the Chowdhury family and the love story between Inspector Gill and the sister. His
main job in the film is to kind of have wet eyes and for his bottom lip to go a bit. To be fair, he does it very well.
He does very well.
I thought it was quite a nice performance, but he sort of cuts quite a sad figure. Different to the one in High and Low.
Yeah.
There's still that deference thing, isn't there? That kind of servant-master type relationship going on, which is a bit of a link to the other
the funny
film.
thing in this film is that they're even more about how his son is part of the family.
That's
he's in the dance sequence and he's in the singing sequence.
That's actually
while his actual dad, the chauffeur, is off in the background. But the kidnappers in this case are more like the actual book than they are like High and Low.
Listeners, I have not read the book.
In the book,
disgraceful.
There is 3 kidnappers.
Yeah.
A man and 2 men and a woman. In this, there's 2 men and a woman. Unlike High and Low, where there's just the one guy, and he's used a few people along the way.
Yeah, you don't really see them in High and Low. They just sort of turn up dead.
So I'm assuming at some point they may have gone back to the source material and had a little look.
Yeah, they must have.
Because otherwise, why would you have like the lead kidnapper and the couple with you?
Because they don't do that much in this film.
There's no credit or mention of Ed McBain anywhere. I don't think there is in High and Low either. But that's the nature of these way these things are made and sold. But the main kidnapper, Raj Singh, he is amazing.
What a presence.
What a noise that happens. Every time he turns up on screen, there's this huge tiger noise.
It's like a sort of... Look, obviously,
you sounded like a kitten and I sounded like a thundercloud.
Somewhere between the two, that was exactly the sound that it made. But there was... Is it not like a kind of rattle or something? It was quite... Like it was really good. It was a lovely musical cue. And all you see is that, like, maybe his ankles, very wide flares. And the shoes. But he does this thing where he's either in shot or he walks into shot, and then he sort of cleans his shoe with the back of his other leg. Does that make sense? And that's like a thing, and he does that a couple of times.
Yes, before he gets the full reveal of him.
But then the full reveal happens really quickly in the film. It's like, oh, hello, that's you. You're the baddie then, are you?
But basically, he gets time away from looking after the kid, and I think this is possibly why they added the other 2 kidnappers in, so they could give him more solo time.
He got loads to do.
Because like in the film, like in the book, well, unlike in the book, but like in High and Low, they get the ransom because he demands it to be sent to him through being thrown from a train window.
Yes.
And that's very much like High and Low.
Oh, it's great,
Very, very similar. And then they try to track it. But there's some even more ludicrous stuff about how the car's dumped and it's covered in... It's disguised. The colour of the car is disguised by being wrapped in paper.
Yeah, so it was black with, was it a Hindi number plate? And then they find it ages later.
And it's white with an English number plate or something like that. But they find out that it may have been covered up because there's still some paper stuck to it.
Yeah.
But it's been dumped in a lake. That's very lucky. That's about the closest you get to sort of forensic work.
Luck just happens in policing, and you've got to accept it.
But they do have to start, once they sort of figure out a bit about who he is, start to put some clues together, or who one of the kidnappers is. They start doing surveillance, and the best thing in this entire film is that they find that he's going to a laundrette to pick up some clothes, and the way they do their surveilling is by sticking a camera inside a watermelon.
It was quite extraordinary. It's a large watermelon,
possibly a
and
jackfruit.
It could be a jackfruit.
Yeah.
And it's quite a large aperture. But the man, who presumably the policeman, moves the watermelon or jackfruit around, not at all suspiciously, as the man leaves. There's Raj Singh. Is it Raj Singh or
No,
the other one? It's the other one, yeah. Yeah.
But there's my tip if you want to try and find out something that's going on and without people knowing, find some fruit and ram a camera in it. Because no one would suspect you.
No.
And if you sellotape your phone to a banana and leave it on someone's desk, they'll never know that you're filming them. That's my suggestion.
I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Do it, see what's going on.
See what's happening.
So that's clearly how the Indian CID chase up their
That's
targets.
pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So where are we up to now? I don't think we can go through this thing entirely sequentially. But I would like to talk about the nightclub scene.
Yes.
Which is another excuse for a dance number.
Yeah. So, because in this film, it's kind of like a bar rather than a...
Yeah, so it was...
Well, actually, I sort of took that
bar,
to
not
be...
a nightclub.
I almost took that to be like the version of the drug den scene rather than
it is,
the nightclub scene.
But instead of the police being there, it's the kidnapper goes there for a drink.
Yeah, he's just there for a drink.
And the singer, Helen...
Yeah.
Does a raunchy...
The performer, Helen.
The performer, Helen, does a raunchy number to all the men in the bar, which clearly, in their inebriated state, sets passions alight.
Yes.
And they become quite rowdy. And the kidnapper, Raj Singh, starts a massively balletic fight.
Such a beautiful
possibly, is he fighting the guy who's wearing a T-shirt that's advertising Ind Coope Double Diamond Beer? Which was a famous British ale from the 50s, 60s and 70s.
Heck of an outfit, that. Yeah, that kind of really stood out, didn't it?
Well, I find it fascinating. And you know what? It sent me off on a bit of a research tangent today.
Oh, listener.
Because it seems so weird, but obviously it was exported widely, I think, possibly, and certainly in the 70s, Double Diamond was big. Why someone would be wearing a Double Diamond T-shirt from Ind Coope, Burton-on-Trent, England.
I have never heard of it before this film.
There's loads. I advise listeners to go and look up the different eras of adverts for Double Diamond on YouTube. There's quite a lot of them. There was one here that I saw, which I think is from the 70s, which is a wedding, and the groom's being encouraged to get up at the wedding breakfast and make his speech. And he gets up really nervous and he goes, "I'm only here for the beer." And then they sing a song with the music to "A Hole in My Bucket."
Wow.
Which is just the words, Double Diamond, over and over again. And I think there was one from the 60s, which was black and white, and it was trying to make it a bit more sophisticated, possibly. And it contained the phrase, "Drink the beer the men drink, with the men who drink it. Men who like good company know a good beer. Men like yourself who make up the Double Diamond Club in your local every day." They sound like horrible people. So I just got fascinated by that. It's a bit of...
wormholing.
Booze ephemera.
Right.
But I think that possibly every time booze is seen in the film, it's always in bad situations. No one good's having a drink. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, possibly in those films.
It can be. Maybe not nowadays. And I think still to this day, the Indian class... the film classification board, if you have anyone smoking, will actually have on the screen, not afterwards in the credits, but on the screen, smoking is injurious to health. On the screen.
There was something with animals as well, wasn't there? We saw in one film.
What was that?
There was like a statement came up on the screen about these animals were looked after, or...
Cannot think of what that was.
Was that a historical one that we watched with Dr. Andy Davies, friend of the show?
Bajie Ramastani.
Okay.
God, isn't that mad? It just seems really jarring when something like that happens. It sort of takes you out of the story. But that didn't happen here anyway. But the song that Helen sings is called Munda Munda.
And apparently was used in another film and is quite popular.
Do you know what it means?
I have no idea.
I think the translation is ant, as in the insect, not the...
Ant?
I think Munda is ant.
Ant?
Ant?
Well, that didn't come across in the translation on screen.
What did the translation
I can't remember.
Maybe we should watch it again while everyone's listening.
For those of you listening to this with subtitles on, I don't know. So, but Mungda Mungda, it's not a bad little number.
It's quite fun.
Bit raunchy.
Yeah, it's quite fun.
But as I say, it triggers this rather balletic fight sequence. people flinging themselves off rafters.
There's no real reason for that entire sequence, though, other than
No,
having
and in
her.
fact, the kidnapper guy has to say to himself, "Stop doing this, or you'll
That's
draw
right.
attention to yourself." Like internal dialogue.
I've gone out for a quiet drink and I've embroiled myself in the fight again.
But there's another amazing fight at the end when
Oh
they
my
actually
God.
in the pursuit at the end.
It's prolonged, I'd say,
Well,
protracted.
the pursuit starts with eventually he's making his escape. Watch the film. You can go and watch it on YouTube if you understand Hindi, or buy it. It is available on DVD. At the end, when they're pursuing him, they go pursuing him with dogs. So there's 2 dogs, and they're pursuing him really
beautiful dogs.
badly. Like he crosses a river, and they don't cross the river. Like it's suddenly become this raging torrent. It hasn't. Then, so one of the other cops, the only other cop that you sort of see who has any lines.
He's like the bosun character, the Meyer character, I think you said. Yeah,
he's the nearest we've got to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This pursuit goes on for ages. They're suddenly in some woods and there's a river and this stuff like that. And the other cop and the dogs chase after him, and then he releases the dogs to get him.
Yeah.
And he strangles a dog.
It's horrible. I just don't...
There was no warning on screen about that. That's how mad the kidnapper is.
It was
how desperate
really
he is.
horrible. Didn't he strangle both of them? So you just hear these whimperings and him looking a bit
Well, I assume
mental.
so, otherwise there'd still be a dog chasing after
Oh
him.
dear. To this day.
Yeah, still now as he runs across the Indian
that
continent.
entire sequence, especially the last 15 minutes, is terrifically violent. It's
It is,
wonderful.
because the cop as well gets drowned. He drowns him. He holds his head underwater.
I was really sad
kills
about
him.
that. I wasn't pleased.
No.
I wasn't pleased.
Were you more
yeah.
sad about the man or the dog? Nah, Moral Maze with Michael.
Moral maze. But it kind of feels like in typical Bollywood fashion, justice is served
Yeah, but
by a
only after
violent
they've had
death.
basically this long punch up.
Oh my goodness!
So obviously
Water,
the main baddie and the main
trying
hero
to drown
end up
him. Oh, they
in a
end up in
massive
some
long punch up.
What?
In a factory.
Yeah.
In a drainage system.
Yeah.
Every time you think one of them's down, they get up again. He tries to electrocute him. You think your hero's
Forgot about
dead. You don't know what's happened.
I mean, it's perfect.
It gets fairly ludicrous.
And especially the very end. I mean, that is just ridiculous.
I can't remember what that was.
Just the explosion. Just he goes to make away in a car,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like, oh, it's exploded. It's a massive fireball now. There you go. Just desserts.
Yeah,
Done.
that's how he dealt it. But in a way, I don't know whether the police deserve to have caught him, because when they originally catch the 2 kidnappers, the other 2, the couple, and they find the boy.
It is absolutely... We were sitting there, weren't we, watching this going, what? Why are you getting into the van with them?
It's not just a van. They load up the 2 kidnappers into the back of this van, which has got no door on it. It's just a cage over
At the back of it. At the back is just the doorway, but
and
no
then
door.
he puts the boy in there and gets in there himself.
Yeah.
And of course,
Meanwhile, he
ends up in a-
sent the police car away to do something else. I was like, why didn't you go in the
How
police
did he
car
get
with
to
the
be an
boy?
inspector in the CID
Well,
with that sort of
I
planning?
don't know.
This poor lad
Nepotism.
almost gets thrown out of the...
But that is an incredible fight sequence.
Again, it is very good, yeah.
Because it's in a really confined space. There's a lot of flailing. But what happens to the boy, he half falls out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And Gill sort of catches him, so his legs are dangling out, catching the boy.
Yeah.
I can't quite describe it.
It's
brilliant.
Yeah, it's very good.
And then so all he can do is sort of punch everyone away.
God.
Oh my god. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot
I
of very
do
good
like that
action sequences in it, and
sequence,
it is very 70s.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's necessarily an exotic and weird thing that you'd only see in an Indian film, because it's 70s action sequences as played out through the filter of Bollywood.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting in that sense. I'm having a look at what I've got on my notes here now. I was mainly just keep thinking about Double Diamond beer. So heroes and villains are one thing, but we also have family, and we have female characters who are pretty much sidelined in this story, a bit like the way they are in High and Low. The book, I think, treats them a bit better, because they give her some agency, even if she does choose to stay with her husband in the end, but she manages to be a bit more argumentative. In this, the wife is very passive, although she does make a point of like, why don't you? Who are you? if you don't pay for this ransom.
You don't really see her that much. She's kind of in the background. She's there at the beginning, obviously, the party scene. And there's a lovely scene where they're on the bed and he's sort of lying down. She's sort of sat up a little bit and it's just so beautifully shot. I really like that. Where I think they're sort of mildly remonstrating, you know. But I think the female character if you compare it to High and Low, is it Geeta Chowdhury?
Yeah.
Because they feel the need to have a love interest, she's sort of taken over that maternal role, and actually she's very maternal towards both the boys. Yes. I don't know if you picked up on that.
The main thing I picked up on was that she's rubbish at making tea.
Yes.
Because there's 2 sequences where she makes tea badly. One
flashback,
which triggers the flashback, and one in the flashback. So don't accept a cup of tea from Geeta Chowdhury.
Oh, Geeta. It's probably Geeta Chowdhury Gill now.
Would it be? And of course, him being the investigating officer, Inspector Gill, means that eventually Mr. Chowdhury comes round to his way of thinking and says, you know what? Seeing as you've rescued the boy and all this, that and the other, yeah, you can.
Well, yeah, because there was this.
Start a relationship.
Yeah, there's
with
a scene
sister.
before, and it was like some ham-fisted scene. It was like, oh yes, she was in love once with a policeman. I said no to that, and then I think Gill says something, and pretty much says, oh yeah, that was me. Oh my goodness, it's. Oh my God, it was you, but you're a nice man. Oh. Maybe I should think twice about my decision to let my sister marry someone,
Well, that's
sure.
presumably reflective of the society, would you say? As best we know from our position?
The situation at the time and with some families.
The male head of the household.
Yeah.
Being in control
Smash
of
the patriarchy.
So some other little bits that are similar to High and Low are sequence with an incinerator. Although in High and Low we basically have a crazy man with...
Yeah,
the place where the smokes come from.
There's like a really fantastic shot, and I think they've shot it so they've obviously gone to a real place. Obviously, you wouldn't mock this up in a studio or anything. And it's a shot looking down, and it's quite a long shot. And there's somebody working at a massive incinerator that pulls this huge, God, it must be like 10 foot of molten, practically steel out of this thing, and then Vinod Khanna. Gill just kind of sauntered right beside it as if it's nothing.
The health and safety on this set must have been lax, to say the least.
I feared for him.
Historically feared for him.
And the train scene.
And
it's
given
quite
some of the
similar.
materials their suits would have been made of in the 1970s, a stray spark out of that incinerator and his legs would have been... it'd have been rubbing Vaseline on them for donkey's years. And the other thing is that I mentioned before at the top of the podcast that we do have a comedy character, the guy who spots something weird happening in the pool that enables them to find the car, and he's later in the bar. He's the sort of zany comedy character that sort of populates. There's an equivalent in High and Low, and then they sort of populate the Ed McBain books with these weirdos that you sort of see on the street.
Yeah, not goofballs, but yeah, I know, oddballs.
You can call them goofballs.
Goofballs, oddballs. Insane now.
That was very authentic.
Yeah, I like that. I like how they sort of, and you do in Indian cinema, you do get these odd characters, like it might be the neighbour or the cousin or the family friend that technically is a servant or whatever. It's a really sort of rich history of these sort of characters. Clowns. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Light relief, comic relief. The character of Mr. Chowdhury then is our Douglas King character, and he's our character from High and Low who does the thing where he agrees to sow the magical things, not magical, the detecting powders and things that change the water colour or the smoke colour, and he does the same thing. He goes and gets his tools. So you noticed something about that?
Yeah, well, in this film I noticed that they were right there. They were just like, he took like 2 steps and they were in a cupboard, so he's kept that close to him. He's not hidden them away in a basement.
His leatherworking tools.
Yeah, his leatherworking tools.
His company.
Bits, his little sort of pack, his little case of tools. They're not hidden away in a basement. They're not in an attic somewhere forgotten about because he's now this big businessman. They're there.
He knows
They're
his
close
roots.
by. Knows his roots.
Knows where he's come from.
Absolutely.
Well, it's an interesting thing to see that this film exists in the first place. And in fact, that there's a remake of this film. As listeners to this will know, there's a one in the Telugu language called Dongalaveta or something like that. And I assure you I am not doing a podcast about that.
But we will watch it if we can get a chance.
If we can find it, we'll watch it.
You might want to do a little tiny blog.
Yeah, I'll do a...
We liked it. It was good.
Well, we might not like it.
Yeah, we didn't like it. It was bad.
The funny thing is, although it's changed, in a way it doesn't feel like it's diluted the essence of the story particularly, but it has added in a couple of colourful songs. A man who's got a tiger noise when he appears.
Yeah. It's just because it and High and Low are completely different types of films.
Yeah.
Completely for different audiences, for different reasons, you know. And they're both so enjoyable.
So for anyone who's guested on a side pod about a non-87th Precinct book subject, there's no official route through Kenneth for rating these things, but we are going to allow you to award a special value, a special score to this film, and it will be in not police shields, not in American police shields anyway, it will be in Indian CID police warrant cards.
Thank you.
I have fitted Kenneth with the Hindi translation unit so he can help me work it out.
Because you didn't have Kenneth for the last podcast.
No, we didn't, but I just thought in this day and age with Hindi being quite a popularly spoken language across the world, there's probably millions, billions of speakers, do you think?
I don't know.
Hey everyone, it's Groff Conklin here, the fact-checking ghost. I've got a quick rundown of the top most spoken languages. Number 1, Chinese. Number 2, Spanish. Number 3, English. And Hindi comes in at number 4, with about 300 million speakers worldwide. That's a lot of speakers. Bye.
Well, I just feel we needed to be prepared.
Thank you.
To extend reach. So I would like you to give Inkaar from 1977 a rating of Indian CID police warrant cards.
Out of
100.
I want to give it 81 Indian CID police cards.
Okay.
Warrant cards. I thought it was great.
And I will award it 75.
Great.
So that gives us a special Kenneth total of 78 police reference points.
Units.
Yes. These are the
That's
units.
Respectable, that. That's quite respectable.
It is. It's not a novelty. It only seems like a novelty watching it after High and Low because it's so much more
different,
colourful and strange in comparison. But that... Oh, before we finish, can I just check? Before we finish.
Yeah.
The main star in this, then, if our Steve Carella character is Vinod Khanna. So is he very famous?
Extremely. He was one of the biggest stars in the 70s.
So is there a equivalent in Western cinema? Who would he be the equivalent of?
Absolutely no. I can't give you that, and I don't know because I don't know him that well. This is the only second film I've seen of his.
The only second film?
This is only the second film I've seen of his.
But would you say he's on the line of like a Robert Redford sort of level of fame? He probably would have been once.
I think he was absolutely massive. He only died within the last year as well. He was a politician after he retired from acting.
So he's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, maybe. I think he's great in this. I really do. I think he's powerful.
Definitely. Thrusting.
Yeah, thrusting.
Masculine.
Got lovely hair.
Looks good in his sunglasses.
Excellent in sunglasses.
And for some reason on the cover of the DVD, he's dressed in a policeman's uniform, which he never wears in the film.
Yeah, listener, he does not wear a police. I can't work out where this shot's from, because there's a couple of other DVDs from this range where he's like Vinod Khanna films where he's in a similar pose in the same outfit, and I've not been able to find out which film this is actually from because it's not from this film.
Well, there you go. There's a mystery for you to pursue. That
I will report back in a blog.
And we will thank, as always, our patron saint, Ed McBain, for leading us to something very interesting.
Thank you, Edward
in the form
McBain.
of Inkaar from 1977. So I'll wrap it up there, and I'll wrap it up by saying thank you very much, Lorraine, for joining me.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Well, that's all right. Goodbye.
Cheerio.